touch your Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Hakem, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you've joined us on Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day, whatever you choose to celebrate. Glad that you're a part of it this morning. Let's get to some questions or comments from viewers after Friday's program, and then we're going to talk about unfortunately, what some are calling a third assassination attempt on the president, though some are arguing that it was not. We'll talk about that, the former president, Donald Trump. But before that, this coming in Friday after the program. Hi, Frank. Hi. I have not been able to listen to your show for a while. My loss. Yes, it is your loss. I'm wondering if you have touched on how the Democrats have screwed up Medicare. Please warn people to get a good look at their plan as there's not much out there compared to other years. Well, there you go. Thank you. We haven't really talked about it, I don't think, extensively, but it is a good PSA to prepare people as they look at their plans. So thank you for that. Could one of the reasons the Democrats like Miss Harris is because she's controllable? And that could very well be. I guess there's reports that Biden is not too happy with Harris, that there's some infighting, if you will, within the White House. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. And finally, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. At some point, could you explain what it would take to change the way that there's no term limit for a New York governor? I doubt it's as easy as voting on a proposition like the Democrats try to sneak in. But what is the process? What a great change for New York that would be. Well, we'll ask specifically Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on that when he's on the program, which is not too far off. But it would be an amendment to the Constitution like we've been talking about Proposition 1. And there's some nuanced rule in there. It's something as if, don't quote me on this, but it has to go through so many assemblies, Assembly and Senate. So like not just one term, one session is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. A session. So it would be quite a hassle, but like you said, they can do it for every little thing that they want. So why not for something as important as term limits? Now we know that Governor Hochul has already declared that she's going to run in 2026. But we'll get the specifics on that next time. Either Joe Sempolinski or Phil Palmisano or someone that knows the state level will get the exact specifics. But I know it would be an amendment to the Constitution, much like Prop 1 is. And last week we were lucky enough to have guests on to tell us all about Prop 1, which we will be voting for or against on the ballot in November or October 26th on, if you're early voting. Okay, so an armed man, his name Vem Miller, V-E-M, was arrested outside Trump's Coachella rally. Local cops arrested an armed man outside a Donald Trump rally in California on Saturday, and the local sheriff has doubled down on claims that a third assassination attempt was prevented, even though he let the suspect walk after posting a meager bail for gun charges, just $5,000 bail. Even though that same sheriff suggesting that it was potentially a third assassination attempt. I truly do believe we prevented another assassination attempt, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco told reporters. Vem Miller, was caught at a police checkpoint, allegedly trying to enter the rally with a phony press pass. But when cops noticed his car was unregistered, they searched the vehicle and discovered a cache of fake passports and driver's licenses, along with a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine. He was soon booked on weapons charges and then sprung after posting just a $5,000 bail. But the sheriff turned around and told the Riverside Press Enterprise that his department had all but saved Trump's life. Federal agencies, however, appear to disagree. The Secret Service believes it unlikely Miller was attempting to assassinate the president, and the FBI is not investigating it as such. They noted that Miller is a member of an anti-government far-right group and probably had the weapons for personal defense alone. The Secret Service later said Trump wasn't at risk during the rally. Quote, the U.S. Secret Service assesses that the incident did not impact protective operations and former President Trump was not in danger. While no federal arrest has been made at the time, the investigation is ongoing. Miller reportedly asked for a lawyer after the FBI tried to interview him and briefly told reporters that claims that he was an assassin, complete, we'll say, baloney. But the sheriff stood by his initial assessment while speaking to the press on Sunday, calling Miller a lunatic and suggesting the country might also be suggesting that they may be being dramatic. What the frame of mind was, all we could do is speculate. If you're asking me right now, I probably did have deputies that prevented the third assassination attempt. If we are that politically lost, that we have lost sight of common sense and reality and reason, that we can't say, holy, you know what did we show up for with all that stuff for? And I'm going to be accused of being dramatic. We have a serious, serious problem in this country because this is common sense and reason. Now, the FBI called the group that Miller was associated with anti-government extremists who maintain that while they physically reside in the country, they remain separate or sovereign from the United States. In addition to trying to flout taxes in the court system, the FBI noted sovereign citizens are particularly opposed to traffic stops, to the point that one 25-year-old armed member was gunned down in 2023 after refusing to comply during a Utah traffic stop. Now, Miller, a registered Republican, has a master's degree from UCLA and in 2022 ran for Nevada State Assembly. He also appears to own a California-based CBD company and has espoused conspiracy theories and used misogynistic rhetoric online. Okay. Some even suggesting that he's all in for his support on Trump. He says that this is Miller, says he's never fired the weapons that were on him. I've literally never even shot a gun in my life. I don't know anything about guns. I am beyond a novice, he continued. All right. So that's an update. Them Miller, our man arrested near Trump Coachella rally, denies wanting to hurt the ex-president. Another quick news update. We've talked about hacks and attacks on water systems, wastewater, sewer, sewage. This is interesting, too. This kind of becomes a part of that. Mystery drones swarmed a U.S. military base for 17 days. And the Pentagon is, and I quote, stumped. U.S. officials don't know who is behind the drones that have flown unhindered over sensitive national security sites or how to stop them. U.S. Air Force General Mark Kelly wasn't sure what to make of reports that a suspicious fleet of unidentified aircrafts have been flying over Langley Air Force Base. Kelly, a decorated senior commander at the base, got on the squadron rooftop to see for himself. He joined a handful of other officers responsible for a clutch of the nation's most advanced jet fighters, including F-22 Raptors. For several nights, military personnel had reported a mysterious breach of restricted airspace over a stretch of land that has one of the largest concentrations of national security facilities in the U.S. Kelly said the show usually starts 45 minutes to an hour after sunset. The first drone arrived shortly. Kelly, a career fighter pilot, estimated it was roughly 20 feet long and flying at more than 100 miles an hour at an altitude of roughly 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Other drones followed one by one, sounding in the distance like a parade of lawnmowers. So you wonder if that's not much like the Chinese spy balloons, if that's what we're looking at here. But something to keep in mind as we talk about the real threat posed by China, Iran, Russia. So those are a couple of quick updates. And as I mentioned, it is Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day, whatever you may celebrate. Well, the Trump campaign has slammed Vice President Harris for allegedly wanting to, quote, cancel American traditions, citing her 2019 comments supporting efforts to rename Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Quote, Kamala Harris is your stereotypical leftist. Not only does she want to raise taxes and defund the police, she also wants to cancel American traditions like Columbus Day. Trump campaign National Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt told Fox News, President Trump will make sure Christopher Columbus's great legacy is honored and protect this holiday from radical leftists who want to erase our nation's history like Kamala Harris. Leavitt was referring to Harris's 2019 comments when she spoke to voters in New Hampshire about a month after launching her ultimately failed 2020 bid for the White House. Count me in on support, Harris told a voter when asked if she supports renaming Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Harris cited recent legislation she helped author that makes lynching a federal crime, and she delivered her response to the New Hampshire voter. Quote, people did not want to deal and accept and most importantly admit that we were the scene of a crime when it comes to what we did with slavery and Jim Crow and institutionalized racism in this country. And we have to be honest about that, she said. If we're not honest, we are not going to deal with the vestiges of all that harm. And we are not going to correct course. And we're not going to be true to our values and morals. Similar, when it comes to Indigenous Americans, Indigenous people, there's a lot of work that we still have to do, and I appreciate and applaud your point and your effort, and count me in on support. Now, Columbus Day is a federal holiday that officially celebrates and recognizes Italian explorer Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas in 1492. The holiday will be celebrated, of course, it is being celebrated today. All right. Yeah, I got some waves coming in. Thank you. Starting off your Columbus Day. with some waves. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to polling. You may have seen over the weekend some good news for Trump. We also have to take a look at the campaigns in general. We do have some New York State issues, if we have an opportunity to get to them, and some somewhat local issues to get to as well. So keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Ranger 1000 is equipped for whatever comes your way. If you have the know-how to take on what comes, the new Ranger 1000 delivers what you need to make short work of it.
Ithaca Recreation Sports, Route 13 in Newfield. Get outside and ride.
Isn't this important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. What a beautiful morning here on Marcus Street. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio on Marcus Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer: I find it quite odd and disturbing that Harris wants to take over a holiday rather than form another one and call it Indigenous Peoples Day. However, that action falls right in line with everything else they've been doing. Yeah, it's been a push for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think in New York State it might be considered Indigenous Peoples Day, not Columbus Day any longer. I don't know what it says in my calendar, but I could be wrong on that. I know there was a push for that at one point. Now, Kamala Harris's campaign is falling rapidly behind Donald Trump, according to 3 new polls. This is very important. Now, we've talked about this in the past, and now Democrats are starting to get in line and be upset, really, with Harris for not doing more interviews, for going on these cushy places and really not doing that great there either. On The View, Howard Stern, where else? That podcast, Stephen Colbert, that's the name I was thinking of. Not even doing a great job at the friendly media outlets. Well, Vice President Harris has lost steam, that momentum that we heard so much about right after really before the Democratic National Convention, when Joe Biden dropped out of the campaign and endorsed her. Her edge against former President Donald Trump has slipped in 3 major polls with less than a month to go until Election Day. Yet another blow to Democrats who were already starting to panic about November. We had, and I have quite a few articles here that we'll get to this morning, but that was the case last week as well. Some of that panic we saw from James Carville and others. Harris has lost 6 percentage points on Trump in a single month, according to an NBC News poll, giving the former president the slimmest lead of 47 to 46% amongst registered voters, with third-party contenders included. Last month, Harris scored 47 to Trump's 41 in the same poll. A separate survey from ABC News, Ipsos, also showed voters moving in Trump's direction nationally, with Harris still up among likely voters 50% to 48%. But that's a significant tightening from the 6-point edge Harris had scored in the poll just last month among likely voters, which was at 52 to 46. Lastly, a CBS News YouGov poll found Harris ahead of Trump nationally by 51 to 48%, and up in the battleground state average of 50% to 49% among likely voters. The poll had Trump gaining just 1 percentage in the national matchup from where he was in the September poll, which had Harris up 52 to 48%. With the fresh batch of polling, and I know the numbers get a little wonky on the air without being able to see them. With the fresh batch of polling, Harris's lead in the Real Clear Politics aggregate of recent multi-candidate national polling has also slipped and now sits at 1.4 percentage points, down from 2.2 on Saturday. Trump is also up in the RCP no toss-up map of swing state contest. Taken together, this is bad news for Harris. Most experts think she needs a 5 to 6 point national polling average to win, and that's because Trump has historically polled lower than he actually performs when it comes to votes. And the sad thing is, we're at such a divided time that people don't want to admit that they support Trump. There is a real fear that they could lose their family, friends, loved ones, job, if it is known that they support Donald J. Trump. Even before these surveys, frustrated Democrats were sharing internal polling that showed Harris losing in swing states like Wisconsin and Michigan, states that will help determine the outcome of the November election. And many GOP insiders have been all but ready to declare victory, which I think is way too early. There's still a long way to go. I know it doesn't seem it. Well within less than a month. But there are lots of Republicans, I say lots, a not insignificant number of Republicans, who say the race is effectively over, said longtime political journalist Mark Halperin. He later added, there are a lot of really worried Democrats, and there are really no worried Republicans, including at Mar-a-Lago. Underpinning the apparent shift in the polls appears to be Harris's favorability slipping, according to the NBC News survey, with the vice president clocking in at 43% positive to 49% negative, falling particularly among younger and independent voters. Now, we saw last week the quote-unquote media blitz by Harris trying to get out there in friendly territory to really, I guess, let people know who she is, because there's so many questions. I mean, she's been, as you are well aware, so quiet, hoping to just do some rallies, hoping that you'll just believe the ads and not really having to do anything that's not on a teleprompter. That was a strategy, and it was a strategy that was working at the beginning, but the undecided voters are saying that they want answers. They want to see where she stands on positions, and if you look at where she stood in 2019, completely different than where she is today, and again, not a lot of substance on her policies, even during that CBS interview, being told, come on, this is the real world. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to get it passed through Congress? Now, according to A.G. Genkarski from New York Post, Trump camp is thumping its chest as Kamala Harris fumbles swing states. Top operatives from Trump's presidential campaign are very confident in their ability to close strong in swing states, contending Kamala Harris's metrics have collapsed in the 7 battlegrounds, likely to decide the presidential election in just over 3 weeks. Wow, time is flying, isn't it? A memorandum, senior advisors Chris Laxavita and Susie Wiles and pollster Tony Fabrizio sent reporters Sunday, says the Democrat nominee's campaign is cracking, with fissures revealed at the worst possible time for her and the best possible time for Republicans. Noting Real Clear Politics model projects the former president ending up with 296 electoral votes, which is more than enough to win, even if a state or two ends up in Harris's hand in November. Team Trump contends the supposed Harris, quote, momentum never really existed beyond the confines of July. And per its internal battleground state data, Harris actually slipped marginally post-Labor Day until now in her image and ballot position. She's 5 points underwater in terms of favorability, while she was -3 earlier last month. In a head-to-head test with Trump, the vice president is 2 points down. She was dead even with the Donald just last month. And as it was said, internally they want her up around 6, up 6 at the least. A deeper dive reveals the change in the dynamics. Trump is, his campaign says, 13 points up with independents compared to his 2020 level. He leads Harris by 5 with that pivotal group. And while he's still down 61 points with black voters, that's better than the 81-point loss with the cohort he experienced 4 years ago. And a good reason for Barack Obama's recent lecturing of black males to support Harris, despite qualms supported by this and other data. Trump is up 7 with Hispanics, a group he lost by 25 points in 2020, and he's just 4 points behind Harris with voters under the age of 45. Part of the seismic shift in the race can be explained by Harris's being seen as an agent of the status quo. Despite her best effort to distance herself from the administration, for which she's worked for nearly 4 years, she can't convince the voters that she is the change agent in this race, that she will be better on the economy, inflation, immigration, crime, or improving people's financial situation. 3 major topics are meaningful, given public polling that delves into these issues in a single battleground or multiple thereof finds Trump with advantage on all of them, sometimes a double-digit lead. Per Team Trump's data, he seems as likely to do a better job than Harris as president, 49% to 45, and more likely to bring change, 47 to 43, create jobs, 47 to 42, fight inflation, 50 to 40, improve the economy, 50 to 41, and improve respondents' personal financial positions, 52 to 40. All right, so that's some quick. And I mean, it's not just conservative outlets that are reporting on this. If you look, CNN and others saying what's going on. Trump's extreme vision for America hikes pressure on Harris. What an odd headline. We're going to get to that when we come back. Stay with us. We're just getting started here on Frankly Speaking. Don't go anywhere.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
In every community, there are people fulfilling a calling that's more than work.
They're direct support professionals.
They're the champions who empower people to achieve their full potential.
It's not just a job. It's about making a real difference.
Join us in a career where your impact means you help someone grow and learn.
Where you're not just going to work.
You're becoming a part of someone's world.
Become a direct support professional.
And build a career with meaning.
It's more than work.
It's your calling.
Trick or Treat is here, and Big Fox TV has some tips to keep our kids safe. Wear bright, reflective, flame-resistant costumes and remove any tripping hazards. Travel in groups and review traffic safety. Check outdoor lights and carry a flashlight. Never go into a house or car for candy, and let your parents check your treats. This reminder is brought to you by your caring friends at Tom's South Corning Collision, Cutler's Carpet and Flooring, Shedden's Wholesale, Suburban Propane, and Big Fox TV.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Our roof cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on your Columbus and or Indigenous Peoples Day. Stephen Collinson said that Donald Trump is invoking a vision of an extreme new White House that would transform America and rock the world. And Vice President Harris has only 3 weeks to avert it as she struggles to restore momentum. There's that word, momentum, in a neck-and-neck race to Election Day. The Republican nominee is escalating the most toxic anti-immigrant rhetoric in modern U.S. history. And he escalated his threat against political opponents this week, saying on Fox News he would turn the military on the enemy from within. In another preview of how he would use his presidential power to serve his personal and political whims, Trump this weekend threatened to withhold federal disaster aid to Democrat-run California, even as he falsely accuses Harris and President Joe Biden of doing the same to hurricane-hit Republican districts. Trump also said CBS should lose its license because he faults its editorial choices over a Harris interview on 60 Minutes that he declined to sit for. The big guns are coming out, folks. They're going heavy with the attack. They're getting nervous. The polling has got them nervous. If you watch any of the Sunday shows, I don't typically try to watch the Sunday shows, but I did see Speaker Mike Johnson, and I see that J.D. Vance was on some, and the fear over the election has caused, again, an anger. And when they're asking questions to Mike Johnson or J.D. Vance, it's not a fair or fairly worded question. It is very much like going to a debate against your political opponent. It reminds me, and that's why I think J.D. Vance did such a good job during the vice presidential debate. And there's a piece here about that we're going to get to here in a little bit, because he's used to the harsh back and forth, the fact checking, and the anger from the reporters. So he was ready for it from Walz. Walz, on the other hand, who has not been giving interviews, was not so ready for it and came off as nervous and stilted. Now, also with CNN, Harris makes case for presidency. Her record as prosecutor now draws fresh scrutiny. Now, if you recall, there was a lot of scrutiny on her record as a prosecutor back in 2019. She had arrested a lot of young people on marijuana charges. I was very proud of it and laughed at a reporter when asked if she had smoked marijuana. So there was a lot of people, especially younger people, that were outraged over her strict marijuana prosecution, at the same time essentially admitting that she had smoked marijuana herself. When Kamala Harris has famously refused to seek the death penalty against a young gang member accused of killing a cop 2 decades ago, she said that her opposition to capital punishment was well-reasoned and absolute. Even under pressure from the late Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein, who received a standing ovation when she called for the death penalty at the officer's funeral, Harris, then 39 years old, stood strong. Quote, "For those who want this defendant put to death, let me say simply that there can be no exception to principle," she wrote in an opinion piece. "I gave my word to the people of San Francisco that I oppose the death penalty," Harris wrote, "and I will honor that commitment despite the strong emotions evoked by this case." Just 4 years later, however, Harris pushed aside her long-held opposition to capital punishment when she announced plans to run for Attorney General of California. She vowed that if elected, she would enforce the death penalty as the law dictates. As Attorney General of California, she advocated for enforcement of a state law under which the parents of chronically truant kids could be thrown in jail. But years later, during her first campaign as president, she expressed regret that some prosecutors had actually done so, saying that that was never the intention of the law. So as you can see, there's a lot of back and forth, and I'm surprised that CNN is actually reporting on this, but there's a lot of people that are looking back at her record as a prosecutor and are not happy with the positions that she's taken. Now, we know she has done a good job historically, flip-flopping, for lack of a better term, or doing a complete 180 from her past positions. Brendan Woods, who serves as the top public defender in Oakland, says, "I think people can evolve, and I think that's what she's done." In a statement, a spokesperson for the Harris-Walz campaign said, quote, "Throughout her entire career, Kamala Harris has fought to protect people and hold bad actors accountable. She took on predators, rapists, abusers, fraudsters, and gangs to get justice for the people, and she will continue to fight for justice and freedom as President of the United States. Asked about Harris's change on the death penalty, a Harris aide said that the role of Attorney General is different from that of District Attorney. The longstanding problem of racial inequities in the criminal justice system is among the issues that prompted Harris to become a prosecutor in the first place. All right. Now, as predicted last week, we were actually saying last week, when were we going to see photos of Coach Walls pheasant hunting? We knew it was only a matter of time. It was pretty much said that he would have those photos in the orange vest, kind of a cliche or a stereotype of a politician going out and getting that photo op. It looks as if he's not really that well versed with the gun that he was using as well. But yes, we did finally get our photos of Coach Walls. That's him there on the right. Coach Walls hunting pheasants in Sleepy Eye, Minnesota. According to CBS News, carrying a Beretta shotgun, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz trekked through a tall straw-like grass for 3 hours on Saturday for opening day of the state's pheasant hunting season, but didn't get one shot off despite his efforts. There's good days and there's great days pheasant hunting, Walz said. Scott Rawl, a friend of the governor who often hunts with, made the sole kill on Saturday. Recovering the body of the bird was a top priority in the instructions given to the hunting party, but no one was able to find the carcass in the thick brush that at some points grew as tall as Walz himself. Many of the pheasants and animals that did come up out of the tall grass and straw flew backwards towards the press. At one point, that prompted Walz to seemingly allude to the 2006 hunting incident involving Dick Cheney. Wow. Striking the iron when it's hot. I'm sure that joke was really clever. Every vice president joke ever made was about to be made right there. I was just like this, as he motioned to taking his gun off of safety too far. Walz said of the one bird that was in his line of sight. The governor wore Carhartt hunting chaps and an orange vest that commemorated the annual season opener, participating in the hunt in his official capacity as governor. Still, it was followed up with a campaign engagement and came on the heels of recent campaign announcements revealing a new voting coalition of hunters, anglers, and gun owners. And we know they've been trying to push for that voting block. If you recall, it was at one point it became popular, a camouflaged Harris Walz campaign hat. And this has been a talking point. We know that Harris was talking about what gun did she have? A Glock, I think, in her house. Walz told CBS News that the Beretta A400 he carried on the hunt was one he purchased while he was shooting a lot of trap. He noted that the feature of the gun had a kickoff, so when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much. On a break to switch out the hunting dogs, Walz had locally sourced venison and a Diet Mountain Dew. He referenced Sarge, one of the 3 black Labradors that led the majority of the hunt. Sarge is over there saying, I just worked for 2 darn hours, and these guys couldn't even shoot one. Walz, who grew up in rural Nebraska and frequents farms and football games on the campaign trail, is seeking to appeal to male and rural voters. In the poll, 45% of likely voting male voters said that they would choose Harris, compared to 54% who said that they support Trump. Now, he was mocked a little bit for this hunting trip because he struggled to load his shotgun. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We've got a lot to cover. I feel like we've covered a lot, though, already. It's already 6:34, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Trust your smile to Elmira Family Dentistry, the best dental care in the region. Their Wand STA anesthesia system provides a pain-free way to take care of any dental problem. Their latest digital x-ray systems provide a highest standard diagnostic record. Elmira Family Dentistry offers routine and deep cleanings, fillings and bonding, crowns, implants, root canals, and Sure Smile orthodontics. Elmira Family Dentistry at 311 West Church Street in Elmira. Call 607-733-6825 today.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all of your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We were mentioning that Coach Walls was out hunting over the weekend, or it might have been on Friday, having trouble with his shotgun. In an awkward video, he hunches over while trying to load the gun and says it never fits quite right. Well, as John Rich, that you may know, the country singer, he tweeted out, Tim Walls claimed he carried weapons of war in combat, but he can't load a shotgun? This guy is beyond weak. My little sister could beat him up. You got to watch this. Conservative commentator Buck Sexton said Tim Walls looks as comfortable loading a shotgun as Kamala does answering basic questions. The Harris campaign has leaned heavily into Walz's Midwestern roots, in an effort to appeal to voters in critical Rust Belt swing states. This is tough, though, because you've got to be good at it. I mean, you've got to look like you've been out pheasant hunting before, and I know he has been. I'm just saying you can't show up and not know how to load your shotgun for this to be effective with rural Rust Belt swing state voters. John Cardillo says Tim Walls claims he's a lifelong bird hunter, but this clearly proves he has no idea how to load or charge a semi-automatic shotgun. I shoot a lot of sporting clays with both semi-autos, but mostly over-unders. He's a first-timer right there. After watching Tim Walls trying to handle a shotgun, I officially retract any criticism from him avoiding combat zones, added Jason Robertson. He is a hero. He is so bad with a weapon that he saved American lives skipping the war zone. Many suggesting he looked like Elmer Fudd as well. This is Tim Walls hunting pheasants. Who did it better? With a photo next to, of course, Elmer Fudd. Now, Kamala Harris claims that she has a gun as well, as you may recall, that she has a gun. Well, according to Alec Schmeller at Fox News, Second Amendment supporters say good luck getting yours. Vice President Harris recently drew the ire of Second Amendment advocates after claiming she owned a Glock handgun, which contrasts with her previous support for bans and restriction on those types of guns. I have a Glock and I've had it for quite some time. The remark came after Harris and her campaign repeatedly highlighted that she and her running mate, Tim Walls, are gun owners. However, throughout Harris's long career, including stints as San Francisco District Attorney and California Attorney General, she repeatedly voiced support for banning and restricting citizens from legally possessing handguns. She also argued at the federal level that banning handguns does not violate the Constitution's Second Amendment rights. Throughout her political career, Harris has been rabidly anti-gun and supported measures that prohibited the possession of handguns by law-abiding, peaceable Americans, said Randy Kozak, executive director of the NRA. The position is not only radical, in modern American politics, but goes further than most gun control activists are willing to admit. As San Francisco District Attorney Harris sponsored a 2005 ballot measure known as Proposition H that sought to ban the manufacture, sale, or possession of pistols by San Franciscans unless they are members of law enforcement, in the military, or work in private security. While the ballot measure was passed by voters, it was ultimately struck down by the courts in 2008 before it could ever take effect. And we don't need to go through all these, but while critics like Michael says Harris is a hypocrite for being a gun owner, Clark Nelly, one of the co-counselors who successfully argued the Heller case, said he'd think there was anything hypocritical about Harris owning a handgun, while also taking the stance that the Constitution does not protect one's right to own one. For example, many people think women should be able to have an abortion and have had or have an abortion themselves, but nonetheless don't believe there's a constitutional right to an abortion. All right, so there's a quick overview, something that we had not really predicted. I mean, it wasn't really a prediction, but we knew that Walls would go out in his pheasant hunting gear, to get those pictures to show that he's, just like he's been visiting, if you've been paying attention, visiting high school football games, to show that he's one of us. Does that work to you? The gun owners out there, the Second Amendment supporters, do you believe what they have to say? Well, we got to take a break. I'll let you think about that. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Harris and her continued dodging in the media. We also have a quick update on 60 Minutes and the selective editing that we talked about extensively last week. Also, there's a couple of New York State issues if we have an opportunity to get to them. But really, the focus this morning in the media is concern. And you saw it in the reporters or the host's voice on the Sunday show, their anger at Trump Vance and their concern over this recent polling that does not show Harris with the lead that they suggest that she needs to win this in just 3 weeks. It's unbelievable. What can she do in 3 weeks? Is it too late? You know, she hasn't held a press conference. I guess she could do that. She went on a quote-unquote media blitz, but not even really an impressive media blitz for a blitz last week. It's shocking that it's a news story that the person running for president of the United States did, 4 or 5 interviews in a week? I mean, that's pretty standard, you would think, but not in the case of how they're running Harris Walls' campaign. Both very quiet when it comes to the media. Now, J.D. Vance was on some of the Sunday shows this weekend, Mike Johnson as well, and just the anger by those hosts at those gentlemen. Just, you could tell that there's, and of course, it's so predictable. I can't remember, it was ABC, but I can't remember what the name of the show is on ABC. But of course, interviewing Liz Cheney, that all-important interview. I mean, it does pay off if you're a Republican that badmouths Republicans. It pays off. You get asked to go to Sunday shows she would have never been asked to go on in the past, but once she started, that is Liz Cheney, start bad-mouthing fellow Republicans, the media, of course, opens their arms wide and says, come on in, we want to do interviews with you. But obviously just attacking and angry, outright angry at Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance on the Sunday shows. But at least they're going out there where Harris is not, still staying relatively quiet, and people are starting to get concerned in the Democrat Party, saying you've got to do more. We've got a couple examples of that coming up in just a little bit. So stay with us. We're running just a little bit late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you.
Introducing the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, StirMax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
Our roof cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. So some are starting to push back, those in the media, at Harris. They're upset that she is not giving the interviews. They think they're not upset necessarily that she's not giving the interviews, but they're upset because they think it is hurting her chances to beat Donald Trump. The owner of Time magazine called out Harris for turning down multiple interview requests. Now think about that. Talk about a friendly outlet. Do you remember that front cover that she received on Time? It's something like It's Her Time, I think it was, something like that, with this almost propaganda-like painting of her. Mark Benoff, who has owned Time since 2018, criticized the Democratic nominee on Sunday while pointing out that ex-President Donald Trump and President Biden, before he dropped out, both sat down for interviews during the campaign. Despite multiple requests, Time has not been granted an interview with Kamala Harris, unlike every other presidential candidate. We believe in transparency and publish each interview in full. Why isn't the vice president engaging with the public on the same level? Trust matters, transparency matters, leadership. Yeah, transparency does matter. Imagine what the White House would look like if she wins the lack of transparency. If she can't give an interview with a friendly outlet, one that's already praised her, Time magazine. In a profile that was published online Friday, a Time reporter noted Trump spoke with Time for 90 minutes during 2 interviews. And Biden also spoke with the magazine for a similar amount of time. When she does do interviews, she mostly favors local media, culture podcasts, or friendly talk shows, writer Charlotte Alter wrote in the piece. That also made clear Harris has no interest in speaking with her. Over the last week, Harris opted to appear on The View, the podcast Call Her Daddy, The Howard Stern Show, and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Amid the numerous talk shows and comedian-hosted podcasts, the VP appeared on just one serious news program, 60 Minutes, last Monday. Time was needled in August to writing a glowing profile of the presidential candidate, even after she refused to speak with the publication at the time. New polling suggests Harris is losing steam against Trump, with Election Day about 3 weeks away. But yeah, there is an issue of transparency, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, they believe that the media and friendly media will be able to kind of drag her over the finish line in the next 3 weeks. They just have to keep their head down, keep quiet, not make any huge mistakes. And I know over the weekend, and you're probably waiting for me to bring it up, she did take part in one of these word salads. That's not the right way of wording it, but she did have one of her word salad moments. So that must be one of the reasons why they're so concerned about even doing an interview with Time magazine. That's all. Well, I mean, and to her point, why? They already wrote that glowing profile that praised her up and down. So why give an interview to one that's already been a propaganda arm of your campaign? The work has already been done. When we come back, we're good. Oh no, I got a little time. Let's talk about 60 Minutes, because there is still a push. Because if you recall, tying back into maybe why she doesn't want to give an interview with Time, she gave the interview with 60 Minutes, really the only what you'd call normal type news program that she's done in quite some time. She does the interview. They show in a promo her giving kind of a weird response to a question on Israel. And it started getting a lot of pushback, started getting a lot of heat, saying that she didn't do a good job. It was word salad. It was really started to reflect negatively on Harris. So when they played it, I actually played the interview. They had edited it to make it sound a little bit clearer and more concise. So now there's been pushback saying, release the full transcript. What did she actually say? What did you guys cut out? What did you leave on top of that answer? What else did you leave on the edit room floor? CBS News 60 Minutes is facing more pressure to release the transcript of Bill Whitaker's interview with Kamala Harris. Barry Wise, the editor of the Free Press, posted to social media on Saturday and said, quote, 60 Minutes should release the unedited transcript of the Kamala Harris interview. CBS News has been at the center of the outrage after it aired an edited clip of Harris during its primetime 60 Minutes. Here's another example. They just have to make it 3 weeks, and then it's no longer a story. Just like that's all Harris has to do. Keep her head down and not make any huge blunders in 3 weeks. So they know that this is going to go away, that no matter how many conservative outlets call for the transcript to be released, they just won't do it if it's going to hurt Harris. And what's the pushback going to be? Yes, a loss of trust to 60 Minutes, but that's already happened. So why do more damage to the Harris campaign? The New York Post editorial board demanded 60 Minutes release the full transcript as well, with even the Harris-Walz campaign disavowing CBS hack editing job of Bill Whitaker's interview with the Democratic nominee. The network's only hope of regaining any credibility is to release a full transcript. Given how awful Harris looked even after CBS chose to deceive its viewers, this may be the last serious interview she does before Election Day. The network has a clear duty to the public to share the whole thing. And that is a very good point the New York Post editorial board raises, that could very well be the last interview before Election Day. Totally agree that Vice President Harris' 60-minute interview transcript should be released in its entirety. The transcript will speak to itself, and there is no reason not to clear up the air, said Lindsey Graham. If you're someone who doesn't think CBS should release the unedited transcript, then you are the problem, said Riley Gaines from Outkick. The fact that CBS's 60 Minutes is refusing to release the full unedited transcript of its interview with Harris is a huge scandal, suggests that much of the entire finished product was manipulated and deceitful, and not just the one horrible example that was discovered, said Molly Hemingway. And that's a very good point. Why so secretive? How much more did CBS cut to help the vice president? CBS on Sunday's Face the Nation aired a clip of the exchange between Harris and Whitaker on October 6th, which Whitaker asked the vice president if the U.S. had any sway over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region, she responded. In the full clip that aired on 60 Minutes, Harris responded, "We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States, and to be clear that we stand on the need for this war to end." CBS is still refusing to comment on the scandal. We got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
A beautiful view of Market Street, brought to you by Boss Security and Horsets. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from Ken before we wrap up to this hour number one of Frankly Speaking. Here's from Ken. As I'm sure you have ascertained by now, I am cynical on everything Democrat. How do you know Walz has hunted pheasants in the past? And why was he loading his gun in the field? I've never seen anyone initially load in the field. You load just before going into the field and chamber when you're actually starting the hunt. Walz has never hunted before, just like Harris doesn't really own a gun. I believe the Dems would lie if the truth sounded better. Nothing other than him talking about pheasant hunting in the past, and I think he has a pheasant hunting buddy who says that they hunt. But yes, you would not know if he had hunted pheasants, but we knew that he talked about it enough that there would be that photo. And when he did struggle, to your point, Ken, he did struggle to load the gun. Yes, Kamala Harris did have a word salad, which I know that term's being probably used a little too much, but it's effective. Who called it something word soup? It's getting kind of weird. While speaking at a Canona Christian Center in Greenville on Sunday, Harris spoke about faith and how going through times of crisis can sometimes lead Christians to question their faith. In times of crisis, and we're looking at the images of the aftermath of the hurricane, but it is easy in these moments of crisis to sometimes question our faith, to sometimes lose our faith for a moment, because what we see is so hard to see that we lose faith or a vision of those things we cannot see but must know. Many people saying it sounded like a fortune cookie. Kamala Harris is a fortune cookie stuffed inside a magic 8-ball and wrapped inside the horoscope page of your local newspaper, said one person. Let me just read the quote one more time. In times of crisis, and we're looking at the images of the aftermath of the hurricane, but it is easy in these moments of crisis to sometimes question our faith, to sometimes lose our faith for a moment, because what we see is so hard to see that we lose faith or a vision of those things we cannot see but must know. There you go. But the thing is, that would have actually been on a teleprompter, or some version of that would have been on a teleprompter. So kind of interesting. In the next hour, we're going to talk about Maureen Dowd, and there's many on the left, many in the media, as well as kind of the pundits criticizing Harris for not doing more, not getting her word, her message out there more, only going to rallies, doing some friendly media, but not even what you'd call extensive media by any means. And now with the polling numbers coming out showing that she's losing the momentum, there's a lot of concern, a lot of anger in the Democrat Party. Yes, they did try to take it out on Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance on the weekend shows. But that doesn't undo the damage. And they've almost, yes, I see Time magazine there pushing back a little bit, but they've almost accepted the fact that she may not do another major interview, that she's not going to do a press conference. We know that there's not going to be a debate. Now, that's because of Trump. Trump says he doesn't want another debate. But still, there's not going to be those more opportunities for Harris to reach the American people and quote-unquote keep that momentum going. That momentum has slowed, has stopped, stalled in many instances. And Maureen Dowd, which we'll talk about when we come back, asks the question, where is the fierce urgency of beating Trump? We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take Make it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-2344.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Here's a comment from a viewer. No pheasants were harmed in the making of this political ad. Vote Trump and make gun loading great again. Thank you very much to that viewer. So we've got a lot to talk about with the loss of momentum by Harris, the real anger and frustration with the Democrat Party looking at her campaign and how it's being run. Very much how Biden ran during COVID, but even more so, even more quiet. Everything else, everything's scripted. When she isn't scripted, like with 60 Minutes, she didn't even do a good job on that. They had to help edit it to make her, or help her by editing it, and yet now refusing to release a full transcript. But Maureen Dowd from the Washington Post, or excuse me, the New York Times, says, where is the fierce urgency of beating Trump? Barack Obama got blunt in Pittsburgh on Thursday. He chided black men who are not supporting Kamala Harris, saying that some of the brothers were just not feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That left me mulling again. Is Harris in a dead even race against a ridiculous person because of her sex, or is that just an excuse? Hillary Clinton did not lose because she was a woman. She lost because she was Hillary Clinton. She didn't campaign hard enough, skipping Wisconsin and barely visiting Michigan. She got discombobulated about gender and whined about sexism. Here's a new book out about it again. I think there's 3 books? Anyway, I asked James Carville if Kamala's problem is that too many Americans are still off about voting for a woman, much less a woman of color. The raging Cajun, James Carville, chided me, saying we're not going to change her gender or her ethnic background between now and Election Day, so let's not worry about it. Time is short, really short. They need to be more aggressive. They don't strike me as having any kind of killer instinct. They let one fast pitch after another go by. I'm scared to death. They have to hit hard pronto. And he's been speaking out about this for quite some time, saying that, Harris, you've got to go on these various news outlets. You've got to give interviews. You've got to be more fierce, as this word is that Maureen Dowd is using, fierce. You've got to hit hard, he said. Her campaign, he said, is still in Wilmington. Kamala spent a week answering questions on 60 Minutes and The View and on the shows of Stephen Colbert and Howard Stern, and she didn't move the needle. She needs to stop answering questions and start asking questions, Carville said. He thinks that for her closing message, she should put the issue of January 6th and who won the election on the back burner. Instead, he said, she should ask, how dare J.D. Vance say with a straight face that Trump is the father of Obamacare when Trump tried to kill it 50 times? Listen, they keep pushing January 6th. I don't know. They believe it's a successful campaign message. She should display pictures of right-wing judges who Trump could appoint to the Supreme Court and ask if Americans are ready for an even more fanatical court. She should ask, do you know how destructive tariffs can be? They will kill your jobs. She should say she's going to end the Trump tax cuts for the rich and ask voters if they would rather use those $1 trillion+ to help young people afford their homes, their first homes. In other words, he said, she should scare the you-know-what out of voters. You know, Trump is just taunting us, having a rally at Madison Square Garden just like the Nazis did in 1939. He's not the first one to make that comparison. I think that's disgusting and despicable. But we'll continue with what this is James Carville said to Maureen Dowd. Black men and young black men have to think about what they have at stake in the election. Donald Trump tells you have nothing to lose. Well, you have health insurance you could lose. You have a job you could lose. Other Democrat strategists I talked to agree that Harris needs to let her guard down, cut loose, and turn the afterburners on. Mainly, her pitch is that she's not Donald Trump, and that's an excellent pitch. But she needs to make the case for herself more assertively. It's hard to understand why she didn't sit down with a yellow pad or laptop long ago and decide why she wanted to be president, what her top priorities would be, and how she would get that stuff done. The vision thing. Even when getting softballs from supportive TV hosts, Harris at times seemed unsure of how to answer. She didn't learn to tack to the center in bright blue California. When asked on The View whether she would have done anything different than Joe Biden, she said, "There's not a thing that comes to mind. A flub, if you want to convey change." Harris could distance herself from Biden when she needs to. She should just admit that we all know what we all know, that the border policy was screwed up and that Biden was not tough enough when it came to Benjamin Netanyahu. That's what we all agree? Okay. Kamala's guarded nature leaves people feeling that she's not really revealing herself. Her reluctance to do serious interviews make her look fearful. She should have been interacting more with the media as a way of getting off the teleprompter and giving a sense of who she is as a person. She does her homework, but her delivery seems more scripted. Even though it can get weird, Trump is better at riffing. As Harris grinds it out, trying to woo white women who are ambivalent about Trump, she does have one big advantage. Abortion rights are on the ballot, and as a woman, she can conjure the medieval nightmare that Trump and Vance threaten. When Harris linked her story about caring for her mother dying of colon cancer to her plan to get Medicare to cover some in-home care, she effectively offered a specific policy idea while revealing her vision for a kinder America than Trump has in mind. His lies about the federal response to Hurricanes Helene and Milton have consequences. When Trump says the government is not helping people in red locales, those affected might not apply for aid. Perhaps Trump's most ludicrous whopper is that he would be the protector of women. It's disturbing that Harris can't get over the hump and outpace Trump. As Carville says, we need less mulling and more action in a do-or-die moment. She needs to do so we don't die. The rhetoric. But that's the position since some of these polls have come out. Some saying that internal polls are even worse for Harris. So for those who, and again, it goes back to the point that we've made, and Howard Stern made it inadvertently, the worst presidential endorsement ever, that I will vote for you, but I would also vote for that wall against Trump. What this article is showing you, it's not about Harris specifically. It's about hating Trump, making sure that Trump doesn't win. That's the problem. So it's not about any type of love for Harris, is what the media is presenting to us, just like Howard Stern did. It's about their hatred of Trump. So I will vote for you, Harris, but I would also vote for that wall. Goes to show you that Howard Stern may be in a little over his head when it comes to talking politics, not realizing that that is a disastrous endorsement. But like Speaker Johnson said when he was being interviewed on Meet the Press, and he made the rounds yesterday, again, with hosts that were not friendly whatsoever to him, he said that Kamala Harris is desperate because she's sinking in the polls. So Kristen Welker said, should Donald Trump release his medical records, Mr. Speaker? Now, here's a problem I have with that. We had 3.5 years where you couldn't ask about Biden's medical record, where there was no cognitive test released, and the media was fine with it. The media never pushed for medical documents to be released. Wasn't any of our business. Now it's back, just like they did at the original Trump term. Now it's back to, we need the medical records. We want medical records. Where was that? It's just disingenuous. It's hard to take them seriously when for 3.5 years we were told, no, never mind, look the other way. Biden's fine. There's nothing to see here. Don't even ask the question about his mental acuity. So again, just hard to take them serious now. So Kristen Welker asked that question, and Speaker Johnson said he has. He issued the records of his physician. Kamala Harris issued her medical records as a diversion because she's desperate, because she's sinking in the polls. Donald Trump's health is on display. Everyone in America can see it. The man works nonstop. He never quits and probably sleeps 4 hours a night. He doesn't require as much sleep as the average person, and he's an unusual figure. This is what we need. We are in a dangerous moment. We are in the most dangerous moment since World War II. You have to have strength and a steady hand and a commander-in-chief that our allies respect and our enemies fear. They do not fear Kamala Harris. They do fear Donald Trump. So this is the normal line that is now being done on the talk shows. Again, Kristen Welker saying, just to be clear, he hasn't released his medical records, and he released 2 letters. So that's that fact-checking, that live fact-checking that becomes so distracting and so really obnoxious to the interview. Johnson said it's unnecessary. The American people don't care about the cholesterol level of Donald Trump. They care about the cost of living and the fact they cannot pay for groceries because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's policies have put them in that situation. The medical records are irrelevant. Mike Johnson doing a good job on the Sunday shows yesterday. But apparently there's some people behind the scenes that are saying because of the way Harris has tried to distance herself from Biden, there's a little bit of fighting going on. Have you heard about this? President Biden is so bitter about being forced to drop his re-election bid by top members of his own party that he's deliberately sabotaging Harris's campaign, according to a growing chorus of political pundits. Now, on this program, we've speculated that there may be some part of Biden's ego that wants to see, because this is not a political statement, but very much about ego, meaning that he may support Trump or want to see Trump win so that he can say, see, I was the only one that could beat Trump, but you knocked me out for Harris and she lost. So it kind of solidifies his legacy as the only one that could beat Harris. Now, what that would do for his quote-unquote legacy when they say he did the right thing, stepping down for his country, and he's practically George Washington, that I don't know. Though I could see a lot of people, including Joe Biden, that would be angry at the Pelosi's, the Obamas of the world that pushed him out. He should be. I mean, he should be bitter, really, after being loyal to the Democrat Party for 50-plus years, and then to have them do him dirty in this way. Since being pressured out of the race in July over fears about declining cognitive abilities, Biden has done little for Harris beyond endorsing her and has largely been a no-show at his vice president's campaign events, even contradicting her and saying that DeSantis did a good job with the hurricane relief. He also pulled the spotlight from his intended successor on numerous occasions, including delivering his own comments last week on how the White House is responding to Hurricane Helene, even after Harris canceled a Las Vegas campaign event and hurried back to D.C. to be briefed on the storm's impact. The lame duck leader has also served up a plethora of cringeworthy actions that have left Donald Trump-loving conservatives salivating. They include sporting a Trump 2024 cap during a 9/11 anniversary event last month and praising Ron DeSantis last week for how he prepped the Sunshine State to handle Hurricane Milton, one day after Harris complained that DeSantis didn't take her call. Meanwhile, there's been growing tension in recent months between Biden's advisors and Harris over her dueling interests of remaining loyal to the unpopular president while also promoting herself on the campaign trail as representing change. Biden is intentionally, this is an exact quote, claim from Jason Reister, a Republican political strategist who sits on the advisory boards for Trump's campaign. Biden is intentionally enacting revenge on Kamala, for knifing him in the back. He never liked her. The happiest he's looked in 4 years was when he put a red Trump 2024 hat on after speaking in Shakespeare, Pennsylvania. He should just come out and endorse Trump. Hank Shinkoff, a New York-based Democrat strategist, called Biden's refusal to embrace Harris's campaign a possible power move to ensure that people understand who the boss still is. Quote, it would be absolutely ridiculous to assume that he has no resentment over how he was treated or how, frankly, he was forced out, while some would describe it as a coup, the veteran campaign consultant said. And this is something that's been brought up on a regular basis, that he has that bitterness, and rightfully so. I don't think too many people would blame him for that bitterness. Why hasn't he appeared in places where he could do some good, like parts of Pennsylvania and states the president won during his term? Nobody wants to give up being president of the United States. It's the one job you don't want to leave. Somewhere deep down inside, in a place where he doesn't want to admit it, I think maybe Joe Biden is actually rooting for Trump, Ramaswamy said. I think it's clear that Joe is still bruised by what happened. I don't think he would have won a second term, but in his views and those of his family, they probably think they were robbed of it. Trump campaign spokesperson Carolyn Sunshine said Harris doesn't need help sabotaging her campaign because she does that herself every time she speaks without a teleprompter. But it's important to remember there's absolutely no daylight between President Biden and Kamala Harris on policy. So your thoughts, do you believe that Biden is sabotaging, as this piece says, sabotaging Harris's campaign? Kamala Harris has said herself she wouldn't do a single thing differently these last 4 years, and our campaign will be reminding voters of this fact every day between now and November 5th. White House spokesman Andrew Bates said critics seem to have missed that Biden made clear he was all in for Harris. Out of the gate, when he left the campaign, he has constantly fought for her and praised her leadership to the country. He believes fiercely in an agenda that would move us to the future, away from unhinged divisiveness and extreme policies the country can't afford to go back to, like Maganomics and a national abortion ban. Interesting. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Trust your smile to Dr. Joshua Henches at Watkins Glen Family Dentistry. Buffalo graduate and member of the American and New York Dental Associations, Dr. Henches offers treatment in all areas of general dentistry, including same-day crowns, implants, root canals, oral surgery, and Sure Smile orthodontics. Trust Dr. Henches and his staff for the best dental care in the region. Visit our office at 703 South Decatur Street in Watkins Glen, or visit us online at watkinsglenfamilydentistry.com.
For Breast Cancer Awareness Month, our blue logo is going pink. For those who've won their fight against cancer, we salute you. For those still fighting, we support you. And for those who would like to help, go to williamattire.com. At William Attire, we've helped thousands in our community after a crash with serious injuries. You know us, you know our focus, and you know we can help. Call the firm with the focus, the firm with the fours. 444-4444.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
And we are back, frankly speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I see some comments coming in. Sorry, I had to run out of the studio for just a moment. So we'll get to those after the next break, but keep them coming in, those along with all these waves. Thank you very much. So tension is rising between not just behind the scenes with Biden and Harris. It says that the staff as well. Tensions are rising between Joe Biden's administration and Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, with Biden's senior staffers being labeled as too, quote, in their feelings to fully support Harris after he was pushed out of the race. That's according to far-left Axios. Wow. Biden and Harris have struggled to remain on the same page since she announced that she would be taking the top spot, with Biden holding an impromptu press conference just as Harris was about to hold an event in Michigan on Friday, ensuring that she would get less live coverage. Prior to that, Harris slammed DeSantis for declining her call about Hurricane Milton, which he denied receiving, just before Biden undercut her by praising DeSantis for being gracious and cooperative. Axios reported. An inside source told the outlet that Biden had not been briefed on Harris's jabs at the Republican governor when he made those comments. On top of those public fumbles between the current administration and the campaign, a close Harris ally told the publication that senior Biden aides are not fully on board with supporting the new presidential ticket. They're too much in their feelings, the source said. The White House is lacking someone in the room thinking first and foremost about how things would affect the campaign. According to people familiar with the inner workings of the White House and the campaign, several of Biden's people have switched over to Harris's team, but some feel like they've been labeled as disloyal for doing so or even considering it. Even with Harris's team, there are reportedly tensions between people who were loyal to her from the beginning and new arrivals from the Biden camp. Now, the White House has denied this. Everyone from the president on down knows how important this election is, and we always anticipated a number of staff would want to transition from the administration to the campaign for the final stretch, said a White House official. They also claim that Harris's campaign has been invited to team meetings with the Biden administration to run things smoothly. Even so, Biden has been trying to end out his presidency on a good note by touting purported successes with unemployment numbers and the end of the longshoremen's union strike. Well, Harris introduces new economic plans that she has not pushed in her current role as Biden's right hand. President Biden endorsed Vice President Harris immediately after leaving the race, rejecting other approaches that would divide the party, and has attested to her leadership abilities and continually made clear his support for her. While ensuring that all critical White House functions are fully staffed, we have made significant changes to guarantee the vice president's team has all of the support and resources that they need. Both Harris's vice presidential office and her campaign declined to respond to Axios' reporting, which seems to be a common trend. So you've got Biden not happy with the way this is going, the way she's distanced herself from him. In numerous instances, kind of quote-unquote sabotaging, as the New York Post had, or in this case, Axios, talking about really the anger by both groups at each other. Now, let's take a look. What time is it? 7:20. Let's take a look at the other side. We've been talking about the Harris campaign this morning. I do have a couple of New York State issues that I hope to get to a little bit later on as well. But yeah, let's go to that, because I've got to take a break. No, we're going to go to Trump's campaign. And then we have a couple of New York updates that we'll get to at the end of the program. I know we talk so often about what's the word I'm looking for? Just how scary, how frightened we are at the rise in anti-Semitism on college campuses, and not just college campuses, in the real world as well. But we've talked about the college campuses specifically. There was a poll that came out over the weekend, just to kind of show you what we're dealing with at that collegiate level, high school and collegiate level. This poll done by the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom found that a fifth of Gen Z Americans believe that Adolf Hitler, quote, had some good ideas, end quote. Adolf Hitler's reign of terror led to the murder of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust in the darkest moments in history. There's little debate that the Nazi dictator is one of the most evil men to have ever lived, with unprecedented depravity against people he didn't think worthy of living under the Third Reich. Around 85 million people were killed during the Second World War, a devastating and bloody conflict sparked by his relentless pursuit of a global empire. Yet 79 years after he killed himself in a Berlin bunker, more than 1 in 10, 11% of Americans, believe the barbaric German tyrant leader had some, quote, good ideas. This is shocking, but it should come as no surprise when we see this rise in anti-Semitism. I know Van Jones said it specifically, that there was a marbling in the Democrat Party of the anti-Semitism. But in this situation, that we look at this because we talk about college campuses, and that's why so many young people, and we've had these stories pretty frequently on the program, so many young people are deciding to not go to college. They're deciding to go into the trades where they can make money right out of school, as compared to get that monstrous debt from college and then try to work off that debt. They can start right after high school and get those good paying jobs. And this should just be another bit of proof, if you were on the fence and need convincing. The survey asked 1,000 likely voters whether they think Hitler had some, quote, good ideas, or if he was evil and had no redeeming features. 77% said he was evil. 12 said they were unsure, and a surprising 11% believe he had some redeeming qualities. When broken down by age group, 21% of those under the age of 29 said Hitler had some good ideas. 21%, folks. Compare with 16% of those between the age of 30 and 49, 7% for voters between 50 and 64, and just 5% for those over 65. This could also show that young people are not being taught effectively what happened during World War II. There may be something to that as well. So again, something to keep in mind as you see these protests on college campus, and you're lectured about how great college degree is and how necessary a college degree is. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
This is the Denny Hybrid. This is the Ford F-150 Hybrid. With a Power Boost hybrid powertrain, you get both gas power and electric energy for impressive performance. Paired with an available 7.2 kilowatt Pro Power onboard generator for when and wherever you need it. Tough this smart can only be called F-150. Right now, returning lessees can lease the Ford F-150 for $299 a month for 24 months. Only at your local Ford stores.
Isn't this important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Thanks for joining us here on Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. So many comments here coming from viewers. First off, from Ken, I remember reading in 2008 when Obama was running that there were a lot of comments on the Democrats following Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Yes, Hillary Clinton very much studied Saul Alinsky. It is Alinsky's 8 steps to create a socialist state. Does any of them remind you of a current Democrat agenda? 1, healthcare, control healthcare, and you control the people. 2, poverty. Increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if the government is providing everything for them to live. 3, debt. Increase the national debt to an unsustainable level. That way, you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way, you are able to create a police state. Total local control. 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives: food, livestock, housing, and income. 6, education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. 7, religion. Remove faith in God from the government and schools. 8, class warfare. Divide the people into the wealthy against the poor. Racially divide. This will cause more discontent and will be easier to tax the wealthy with full support of the voting poor. Thank you very much, Ken. I do remember I read Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals at the time as well. That was a major talking point. Okay, here's another one. I think we're supposed to just look at Biden's wearing of the Trump hat and endorsing DeSantis' efforts as part of his mental decline. I wonder if Trump wins, if Obama will finally move out of Washington, D.C. like every other president has done in the past except for Woodrow Wilson. Thank you very much. And finally, this is an exciting one. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. First-time commenter. Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for being the best part of the morning. Look at this. I think a perfect illustration of what the Democrat Party has become is just looking at the houses that sport Harris and Wall signs. The larger, more affluent ones very rarely have Trump signs. The more modest, working class homes have Trump signs and flags. Thanks again for all you do. Well, thank you for the very kind words. I like that. Thank you for being the best part of the morning. Wow. Thank you. That made my morning, my Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day morning. Just received this through, I guess you could call it breaking news through email. The New York State Police Troopers BPA proudly endorses Judge Matthew McCarthy for the Steuben County and Family Court Judge position. Of the endorsement, Judge McCarthy stated, quote, "I am honored to have earned the endorsement and trust of over 7,000 active and retired uniformed New York State police throughout the state, represented by the New York State Police Troopers PBA. These men and women sacrifice every day to keep our families and communities safe. I will do my best to reward this trust by holding myself to the same high standards as they do and administer justice equally and fairly for all who appear before me." Now, the Police Benevolent Association of New York State Troopers Incorporated is proud to announce the endorsement of Matt McCarthy for election to the Steuben County Court Judge, they said in a statement. It is with careful consideration that the NYST PBA is endorsing Matt McCarthy for election to Steuben County Court Judge. They are confident that Matt McCarthy is the best candidate for Steuben County Court Judge. There you go. Just receiving that in my inbox. Okay, speaking of endorsements, former President Trump received a unanimous endorsement from Border Patrol Union. You may have seen over the weekend at one of his rallies, the Border Patrol speaking. The official union of the U.S. Border Patrol announces full support of Donald Trump during a rally in Prescott Valley, Arizona yesterday. During the rally, Trump told the crowd that he was honored to receive the endorsement of the entire union of the Border Patrol agents, the National Border Patrol Council. "It's a great honor," Trump said. They said it was unanimous, thousands of people. He then invited Paul Perez, the president of the National Border Patrol Council, on the stage. Perez said, "If we allow Border Czar Harris to win this election, every city, every community in this country is going to, we'll say, heck. The untold millions of people, unvetted, who she has allowed into this country that are committing murders, rapes, robberies, burglaries, and even more and other crimes will continue to put our country in peril. Only one man can fix that, and that is Donald J. Trump. He has always stood with the men and women who protect this border, who put their lives on the line for this country." The union president told the crowd they have a choice to make this November. He said, "The chaos can continue, and criminal cartels can continue to be allowed to control the border, which will allow for drugs and fentanyl to filter into the U.S. On behalf of the 16,000 men and women represented by the National Border Patrol Council, we strongly support and endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States." Trump appeared pleased with the endorsement for what he called an incredible group of people he will always stand with. Oh, did you also see at the rally, Dennis Quaid was at the Coachella rally. Now, we talked about earlier in the program, there's some discussion or some really an argument going back and forth whether there was essentially a third assassination attempt on Trump. They did catch that man quite some distance away with guns and fake press passes, etc. Before Coachella, luckily caught before anything was done. But Reagan star Dennis Quaid, and by the way, I don't ask for movie reviews very often, but have you seen the movie Reagan? I've not yet. I plan on seeing it as soon as I can see it at my house. I don't know if I'm afraid I'd fall asleep at any movie theater at this point. I haven't been since pre-COVID. So I am looking forward to seeing it. I hear Reagan was very good. Well, Dennis Quaid, you know him from numerous movies and TV shows. He rallied for former President Trump in Coachella in California on Saturday. Now, this is important because if you're a Hollywood actor, this very well could be the end of your job. This very well could affect the jobs that you get, the support that you get. So you can't take this lightly. Whatever you think about Dennis Quaid as an actor, this is very impressive, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to come out and endorse Trump because, as we talked about with the polls, the common man and woman out there who are afraid to say that they support Trump to the pollsters because it could lose some family members, some friends, maybe their job. That's not quite to the level of what Hollywood celebrities, where they're at. If they endorse Trump, that is the end of their job. If you recall, RFK Jr.'s wife, who is an actress, people calling her out for not saying enough against his support for Trump. So she didn't support Trump. Her husband did, and they were calling for a boycott on her. So it does take courage to do this. Dennis Quaid saying, "God bless you. God bless America. I'm here today to tell you that it's time to pick a side. Are you going to be a nation that stands for the Constitution or for TikTok? Are you going to be a nation of law and order or wide open borders? Which is it? Because it's time to pick a side." It's amazing how the issues of the 1980 election are very similar to what they are today. Recalling the record high inflation, as well as Iran hostages. We're a nation in decline. That's what they told us. Ronald Reagan came along and said, no, we're not a nation in decline. We're going there, and we followed him. The same with Trump, with President Trump, my favorite president of the 21st century. The actor said he voted for Reagan decades ago. He went home to his roommate in Los Angeles at the time, who asked him who he voted for, and told Quaid, you are kicked out of the hippies. I'm going to ask you a question that Reagan asked America back then, and I think it's the question that got him elected. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? 4 years ago, under President Trump, we had energy. We were an energy independent nation. We had cheap gas. We were actually exporting oil to our allies and our friends. Today, Putin is making money hand over fist, selling oil that he uses to pay for his Soviet-style comeback war that he has with Ukraine. And while we're shutting down our pipelines over here and capping our wells and begging Saudi Arabia and Venezuela to pretty please, will you please sell us some oil, we're kind of short right now. When Trump left office, Quaid said inflation was low and there's peace in the Middle East, crediting Trump as having been right on the verge of accomplishing the Abraham Accords, making peace between Israel and Arab nations. The actor also said Trump was negotiating a withdrawal from Afghanistan with honor and order, recalling how the former Republican president said he threatened a Taliban leader with a satellite image of his house. Iran was bankrupt. They weren't able to give weapons to Hamas and Hezbollah. And look at where we are today. We basically funded that war. 4 years ago, we had a secure border. We were on our way to even doing more and having a wall. And what a nation is. That's what a nation is. It has a wall. But I guess it's like voter ID. You don't need it in this country for some reason. The actor concluded with a personal story about his housekeeper, Josie, who he said was in the United States illegally for more than a decade and used her sister's identification. When Trump was elected in 2016, Quaid said the housekeeper from Mexico was in fear that she was going to be sent back to her country. I said, Josie, no, you're not. That's not what they're talking about. He wants people to come here the right way. I'm going to become your sponsor. And we started it. Right now, she has her green card today. And she so wants to get her citizenship so she can vote for Donald Trump. Pardon me, vote for Donald Trump. So like I said, people, it's time to pick a side. Who are you going to pick? God bless you. So Dennis Quaid endorsing Trump and even speaking at a rally, which is very, very impressive for any Hollywood celebrity to do that. By the way, Reagan has received a 98% audience approval rating on Rotten Tomato, as well as an A on Cinema Score. So if you saw the movie Reagan, I'd love to hear what you had to say about it. I did hear kind of a back and forth. Some liking it, some not liking it, but it really was. I haven't heard anybody complain that it wasn't a glowing piece on Reagan. Now, during an interview back in August, Quaid did reveal that he would cringe at some of the stuff Trump said, but he felt the former president's heart was really in the right place and added that the nation needed a really strong leader like Trump. We got to take a short break. Whoa, yes, we sure do. I'm running real late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
If you've won regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Almost looks like a painting out there, doesn't it? Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We talk about the importance of voting locally, not just at the national level, to vote, to know who you're voting for. And we bring up kind of oddball examples of kind of corrupt politicians. Here's one. A resident of Hanson, Massachusetts, has been asked to stop projecting political signs onto the town's municipal water tower or face fines. Green issued the statement after she became aware the resident was projecting the image from his residence. On Friday, October 1st, the town of Hanson became aware that a resident was projecting the image of a political sign from their property onto the town of Hanson municipal water tower at 228 High Street. This misleads the public into believing that this activity is sanctioned by or condoned by the town, and that the town does not endorse candidates for any official form in any political party. Yes, you guessed it. It was visibly the Trump 2024 campaign logo being projected onto the water tower with a floodlight. However, it was still visible as of Friday evening, and the cease and desist order being prepared for the violator will impose a $100 per day fine until the activity stops. All right. Tim Walz, according to Miranda Devine, we were talking about Walz earlier on his pheasant hunting escapades. Blundering Tim Walz is dragging down Harris's campaign, while brilliant J.D. Vance helps Trump surge. Now, Vance has been doing a good job at not just the rallies, but as well as at hostile media outlets. As the latest polls Sunday showed Donald Trump and Kamala Harris neck and neck with just 23 days to go until the presidential election. Democrat spinsters are trying to calm everybody that is freaking out, and Barack Obama has been dispatched to scold black men for not being impressed by his protege. But as uncomfortably close as this election is, one thing is certain. Tim Walz has to be the worst VP pick on record, in stark contrast to J.D. Vance. Now remember, they were saying that J.D. Vance was the worst pick. Those in the media calling him the Sarah Palin of Dan Quayle's or something very strange, saying he was a horrible pick. But then we saw, if you didn't pay attention, and the first time you did pay attention was during the debate, you saw a calm and collected J.D. Vance and a nervous, odd Walz. If Harris loses her self-indulgent decision to reject popular Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in favor of a running mate even dumber than she is, will go down in the Democrats' Hall of Fame as the worst own goal of all time. What the choice of running mate tells you about each candidate is profound. Trump's choice of the brilliant Senator Vance tells you he is comfortable in his own skin, secure about his own achievements, and not threatened by a younger, more articulate MAGA heir. Vance pulled himself out of a chaotic childhood. We know all about that. Since he was unveiled as Trump's surprise VP pick against the advice of most donors and advisors, he has hit the ground running and proven his worth in dozens of interviews, pushing back on media lies with grace and deadly precision. For instance, on Sunday, when Martha Raddatz downplayed the violent takeover of residential buildings in Aurora, Colorado by armed illegal migrant gangs because, quote, the incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, Vance took her apart, saying, did you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Trump looks on his protege with pride, commenting to Fox News after Vance's commanding performance in the debate earlier in the month, quote, JD was fantastic. It just reconfirmed my choice that there was a brilliance to what he did. Then, on the other hand, you have Walz. In a few short weeks, the Minnesota governor has amassed an impressive array of media flubs and downright scandals, from his stolen valor exaggeration of his reserve National Guard career and peculiar lies about his Chinese Communist Party entanglements to his feeble boasts about being a red-blooded hunting man. The last little vanity blew off over the weekend during a fake pheasant hunting photo op in his home state when he didn't know how to load his shotgun. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting take from Miranda Devine, but we got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
And we are back with the Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. And we're broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. We got so many comments coming in this morning, and maybe because it's Columbus Day, maybe some different viewers. How about this? Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Today is one of your better programs I've seen. Keep up your good work. Well, hey, thanks. All right. Appreciate that. Another comment from a viewer. Just visiting friends in the area. Love your show. Oh, well, thanks. And thanks for the wave. You're officially on Frankly Speaking's wave counter. I appreciate that. Just visiting. I'm glad that you got to join us on Frankly Speaking this morning. Another comment from Ken. You have to feel sorry for Harris having to live with Walz as her VP. It must have been difficult for her handlers to find someone that wouldn't outshine her. Yeah, he has been, for all the pushback and criticism by the media, supposedly, of J.D. Vance, that he's weird, right? Really, the only claim to fame that Walz has is that he came up with that term to start using and misuse and use way too much, weird. He has not been an effective VP candidate. Looking very nervous at the debate, not doing a good job of the debate, and not doing interviews. So, yeah, she can't be happy, but she couldn't pick, for whatever reason, Josh Shapiro. Some have speculated because he's Jewish. Others have just speculated that she didn't want someone that would outshine her. Could be a mixture of all of the above. Another comment. We saw Reagan, and I'm old enough to remember those days. Like Trump's first 4 years, the Reagan day reminded me of the good times they were. Also, some things I didn't know or remember Reagan did. And we're talking about the movie Reagan because Dennis Quaid came out and endorsed Trump at that rally on Saturday. I thought Dennis did a great job, except the wall speech. I remember that speech, and it was amazing. Okay. There you go. Well, thank you. Thank you for giving us a heads up. I have not seen it yet, and I plan to as soon as it comes out of theaters, and you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. Yes, a lot of people are commenting on J.D. Vance and the great job he did to Martha Raddatz, saying, do you hear yourself? Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs. And Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. When you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris's 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. Raddatz had to push back yet again. Let's just end that where they did not invade or take over the city, as Donald Trump said. A few complexes, no big deal, Vance quipped. And that's why he was so effective, I believe, in the debate, because he was used to this hostile territory. He was used to getting the random fact checks and the random pushback from people, so it was easy for him during that debate, and that's why Walz struggled so much, because he's not used to having any kind of hostile questioning. That's why when they asked him about Tiananmen Square, and then they followed up and said, well, no, just to follow up, what's your answer? He was not prepared for that at all. Okay, moving along here. It's getting, well, about 3 weeks out from Election Day, so it should be no surprise. The Washington Post releases a 24-page, these are the Republicans endorsing Harris over Trump. And I see that Liz Cheney got praised on the media yesterday. She got to do her Sunday shows, which she must like so much, get that attention. Does this interest you? Do you want to hear who the 11 Republicans are? Dick and Liz Cheney, Jimmy McCain, Adam Kissinger, Jeff Duncan, Stephanie Grissom, Bush, Romney, McCain staffers. That's very telling when you have Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and Bush, Romney, McCain staffers. Just think about that. Think if this is going to hurt the Trump campaign. Republican national security leaders, Reagan staff members, White House lawyers, former chairs of the main Republican Party. Wow, they're really digging deep here, aren't they? John Giles, Jeff Flake, Alberto Gonzalez, Olivia Troy, Nancy Kasbaum, and I think that does it. The 15 Republicans that have endorsed, quote-unquote Republicans, who've endorsed Harris. Oh, and Chris Christie says, it becomes the latest. That's how they say, if they want to make it sound like there's a ton of people doing this. The latest to sound the alarm over Trump's significant mental decline. Isn't it interesting? It's just like when Speaker Johnson was being asked, should he release his mental or his health records? And yet it's so disingenuous, because we had 3.5 years where no one could bring up the health records and the mental decline of Biden. And now it's issue number one to the media. The former New Jersey governor told the New York Times opinion journalist Frank Bruni that the Trump he saw during his first White House bid in 2016 appears to be very different to the man running for a third time today. He wasn't as good in 2020 as he was in 2016. I saw a decline in his skills in 2020 from 2016, and you see significant declines still. What masks it is that he is still physically pretty vibrant and energetic, unlike the president. But if you listen to him and his ability to make a point, it's not nearly as good now as it was in 2016. Not nearly. So there's another example, as we talk about Liz Cheney. Chris Christie, who loves the attention, when he badmouths a Republican, then he knows that'll get him the attention that he seeks so desperately. And he's also one to very quickly make some tough talking statement. And he just loves doing that on these outlets that would hate him normally, except for he finds an opportunity to badmouth Trump. But we got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, wrapping things up on the Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day edition of Frankly Speaking. Here's a comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. We saw the Reagan movie and loved it. I would like to hear what it was the people didn't like about it. They can't name anything. They just didn't like it because it was Reagan. And that was pretty much honestly, that was the case. It was people saying that it was too pro-Reagan, too pro-America. And they weren't hiding the fact that that's why they disliked it. Not any viewer here. I'm saying some of the reviews and some of the commentary that I saw after it came out. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I will see it. Boy, the trailer looked great. Dennis Quaid looking remarkably like Ronald Reagan. Okay, I mentioned we were going to bring up a couple New York issues, so stay with us. This is it. We're going to go through them quick. Major unions are breaking from big labor in New York and backing GOP incumbents over Democrat challengers in local tight House races, giving Republicans a better chance of keeping majority in the chamber. The New York State AFL-CIO leadership is backing Democrats in all 7 of the most competitive local House races, including 5 challenging first-time Republicans in swing districts. But that only tells part of the story. John Samuelson, president of the 155,000 National Transport Workers Union, who serves on the AFL-CIO Leadership Council, is backing the re-election of 2 embattled first-term Republican representatives in the Hudson Valley, Mike Lawler in the 17th District and Mark Molinaro in the 18th. Just wanted to give you that quick update. Mara Gay from the New York Times has an opinion piece out from over the weekend saying New York can do better than Andrew Cuomo. There are many ways for New York City to turn the page on Mayor Adams. None of them need to include Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced former governor now plotting a comeback as a mayor. Yeah, he is working the phones right now trying to persuade donors and New York Democrats to back him for mayor in a special election if Mr. Adams resigns in the wake of his recent indictment. It is up to Democrat leaders as well as voters to make it clear that Mr. Cuomo has no political future, not as a replacement for Mr. Adams and not in any attempt to return to the governor's office either. And this person, Mara Gay, goes into details about the sexual harassment claims and the like. But we know his name is being thrown around for potential mayor of New York City and basically being thrown around by himself. But still, given this exhausting history, it makes sense that 55% of city residents and 52% of city Democrats said in a Marist poll released October 4th that they didn't want to see the former governor run for mayor. Mr. Cuomo may be thirsty, but voters don't seem to have a burning appetite for his return. Hopefully, Mr. Cuomo will pick up what voters appear to be saying. New York is ready for something different. Finally, wave right there at the end. Elections for president and Congress carry immense significance. And there in the background is Andrew Cuomo. It says, this is coming from, where was it? Well, anyway, here's an opinion piece. The coming national election, by contrast, is lining up as the most consequential of my lifetime in the terms of choosing the leadership and direction of our country. That is truly scary stuff. Anyway, he goes into talking about Cuomo. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the nice comments. I think we might have had some different viewers, seeing that you may have the day off for Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day. So thank you for joining us, spending your morning with us. Thank you to the person from out of town who was kind enough to write in. I hope that you'll have an opportunity to catch other Frankly Speakings in the future. All right, that does it for us this morning. Make sure you tune in every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.